so what I want to do, and the way I titled the class, if you like, is to look at probably the thing that I'm most fascinated with, or most obsessed with in cooking with vegetarian food, is trying to get those things that bring a lot of pleasure to food using essentially only vegetables. And I think it's one of the things that a lot of vegetarian food seems to lack. And part of the reason for that, I think, is vegetarian food has always been kind of lumped in with health food, and so you kind of once you put the two of those together, it's even harder to create rich, pleasurable food, and that's what I'm going to look at in the recipes that we're doing today. Starting with vegetables and trying to create and build up flavour combinations. The dish is what I call it aubergine parcels of spring greens and ricotta with a miso ale sauce. It's very simple, and I did it to demonstrate my favourite way with an aubergine, which is the slice used as a wrapping. The filling is a kind of a bang-on seasonal thing: asparagus and peas with some fresh ricotta, and I made a gravy from reducing ale with some stock and some vegetables, and then thickening that with a compound of miso and butter. So what I'm going to do to start is to just get a pile of eggplant in the oven. Same thing, cut the top off, cut the end off, and this time we're going to go for quite a wide strip. Cutting off quite a bit off the outside. The reason for that is if you just cut a little bit, let's do it on the other side, if you just cut a little bit, because you're trying to use up all your eggplant, then your first slice is going to look like this, and it's got an awful lot of skin on it, and it's the hardest thing in the world for me to retrain chefs to stop doing this, because they've been trained not to waste. So they cut this slice, they put it on the tray, they brush it with olive oil, they put it in the oven, it comes out, and I throw it in the bin. If you use it like this, it's all skin on the outside. If you hide it the other way, they find out later when they bite it that it's all skin on the inside. So, yeah, they do find out. Okay. There are stages in recipes that when you're thinking about whether you'll cook something or not, you hit a wall somewhere, and that salting of eggplants or salting of anything is one of those things. There's something about the whole process of risotto that terrifies people. So I always think if there is a step in a technique that kind of makes you go, oh, I couldn't be bothered, then you should think about not doing it, or finding a way around it, because it's better that you use the things rather than find them too troublesome. And if part of the reason for finding eggplant troublesome is the salting, then it doesn't need it.
I really like the way that he was able to go ahead and showcase using an eggplant in various techniques, cutting it in different ways. In the last dish, we got to see him use it as a vessel to present the cheese and pea puree so wrapping things in the eggplant as opposed to just layering them on top of each other.
Eggplant likes olive oil, okay? Don't be mean. You can dry roast it, but you're going to get something completely different. You're going to get a dried eggplant.
I was born and raised vegetarian, so my mom's always been vegetarian. I've always been vegetarian, so I thought it'd be interesting to basically have more dishes that I can work with and to learn how to use vegetables differently from some.
So as you can see, these are not lentils. Again, we're using aduki beans because we have aduki beans in the store here. Ontario aduki beans, which is kind of unbelievable to me. So we're going to work with the adukis today. So we've got some that were just more or less fully cooked, almost. We're going to add in some tiny dice of roast beet and a little bit of thyme, which again is oregano, because that's what we've got here at the moment, and a little bit of parsley. Now if you're doing this with lentils, put everything in the pot from raw and cook them together so that the beets and the lentils meld together. With a little bit of time, the aduki beans and the beets will work together as well. A little bit of seasoning, a little bit of water, and there we go. That's the bottom of the dish. Above that, we've got the aubergine parcels.
Well, I loved how he used the eggplant. I don't usually generally use a lot of eggplant in my dishes, so that was really nice as opposed to using like a wrap or something that was flour based all the time. That was a nice take on it.
Decide which side you like best. Let's say this is the prettier side. Put that down, so it's going to be the outside. That one, put that down. And so we're going to use this as the wrapping for a parcel. This is probably my favorite texture of eggplant because of all the things that you can do with it. And basically what we've done by putting it in the oven and roasting it is you've created this really useful thing which can be formed into a parcel, it can be used to layer, it can be used to line a terrine tin. There's a million different things you can do with this once you've got it. And you know, in terms of vegetarian cuisine that's always striving for texture and structure, this is incredibly useful. Once you've got that, there's a million different things you can do with it. What we're going to do with it today is we're going to fill it with a combination of peas and asparagus and ricotta. Very simple, very spring.
I love the sheep ricotta and adding, you know, some more of the hard sheep cheese or goats, depending on what you have. But that I really, really liked about it. And the flavors were amazing. They were light, but they were still substantial.
Peas, which are actually last season's peas, have been blanched in water for 30 seconds. They're going in here into the food processor to get mashed with some ricotta. And I think I'm going to do that again. Put it on. This is going to make too much though. Good. There we go. Zap that. The asparagus, likewise. If you remember the really thick spears of asparagus that we grilled earlier for the first dish, I weeded out the thinner ones, chopped them very, very, very thin, dropped them into boiling water again until the water came back to the boil, no longer than that. In, out, cooled them, and you've got this these lovely little pieces. I think the main thing that I wanted to get across was an approach to vegetarian food and vegetarian cooking where you're concentrating on producing richer, more pleasurable flavours and dining experience in general. Okay, so we got our pea puree. Let's do it the other way around. This much asparagus. And we're going to add in some green onion, spring onion. A little mint would be useful, but we don't have any today, but don't be shy with the mint. A little salt and pepper. And that's it. It's very simple filling to create vegetarian food that does concentrate on pleasure and flavour and all the other aesthetic issues. You really have to work hard at it and work at finding the flavour in the ingredients, concentrating them, and then adding big, bold flavours to that. Okay, we got a little hard cheese which we're going to put in there to flavour.
You're right, white is white soy.
Is that?
It's lightly fermented. Usually there are 3 kinds.
Well, I've been an admirer of Denis's work for a while. I own a couple of his cookbooks. I appreciate the fact that he sort of takes a more refined approach.
It's that time of day. Here we go. I think it says 500 mils, so there won't be any left over, unfortunately. You know what's really nice in this too, actually, is cider. if there's any good local cider. Cider and miso go really well together. This time we're using a light ale. So we're going to reduce that with a little stock. A little carrot and celery.
A lot of places just go to the default when they're trying to serve a vegetarian, and what I mean by that is pasta, or maybe some sort of like a layered bake or a casserole. And it's nice to see someone have a refreshing eye to be able to do something different and a lot more palatable than just your average vegetarian fare.
Miso butter is miso and butter. How much miso and how much butter is completely a matter of taste, obviously. Depending on what you want and what you intend to do with it, you will read everything from 1 part miso, 2 parts butter, to the other way around, 2 parts to 1 part. I think I'm kind of aiming for 50-50.
A long time ago I read a cookbook about eating for your blood type, and it talked about my blood type being an A required a lot more vegetarian kind of diet than a meat diet. So that's sort of what got me interested, and I try to do like maybe 4 or 5 meatless meals a week, but I'm not a full vegetarian.
So let's get that filling back out.
So frosty on the tip there.
Excellent. Okay, so we're going to go for, pick your pretty side, put the nice side down. Then take some filling. Basically cover the middle third. And fold the others over, and then make sure, this is fiddly, but it's really worth it. It's, you know, when you see the difference between something done in a finicky, obsessive way and in a slapdash way, I think it does affect how the customer or the diner or your best friend perceives it, and even again how it eats. Make sure it's full right to the edges, and make sure the top is flat rather than a big roundy thing. If you want a roundy parcel, make a roundy parcel. But if you're trying to make a flat rectangular parcel, then take the trouble to make it flat and rectangular.
He was just great to learn from and to listen to about his philosophy of what a dish should be. You know, the colors, the flavors, the layering, basically the textures of everything. That I really, really enjoyed, is knowing his thought process.
Okay, so we did add some red wine to our lentil stroke aduki beans, and we're going to finish them with just a spoon of butter. Put a spoon of butter in. Our ale, which has been boiling furiously here, and all you're trying to do when you're boiling ale or any liquid, as we had with the wine earlier, is simply concentrating the flavour. Also, I guess in this case, taking the alcohol out. So we're going to strain this. Thanks. Lose the bits. And put your liquid back in the pot. So, having said that, we're now just going to put some miso butter into that liquid and hope that it thickens it. Coming back to the boil again. Do you want to put those parcels in the oven? So the parcels that we made up, everything in them is cooked. We got that ricotta in there, so we probably need just about 5 minutes in the oven to warm them through. They don't need to be browned anymore. Really, you're just trying to warm them.
I think that it's an underrated form of cuisine. A lot of people think that vegetables are relegated to nothing but a side dish, when really they can be so much more.
Quite often, the butter will level everything out and take the bitterness, or enough of the bitterness, some of it, from what you've already reduced. So the maple syrup is kind of there as an emergency thing. If your finished product, it has everything else right, your butter, your miso, your ale is all coming through and it's all nicely balanced, but it's a little bit better, add just a tiny bit of maple syrup or honey. Apparently we've got honey, not maple syrup. So we're going to use just a little bit of honey to take the edge off that. A little bit of honey. As much as I love some of them, eggplant, asparagus, artichokes, their starting flavours are relatively simple. And to create a complex flavour from them requires building. Okay, first of all, take some of your lentils, your dookie beans, nicely cooked in beets and red wine, finished with a little butter. And some parcels. One of the reasons for the beet underneath is that nice bleeding effect you're getting. It's just to prove that the walnut crumb is versatile. Okay, there we go. It's a cliche about Stratford, but it's probably true. It's the pork capital of Ontario, and nothing wrong with that. I think there are a lot of people here who appreciate vegetarian cuisine, but it's not a particularly strong element here, I think.
I think what stands out was just how flavorful vegetables can be. I mean, I was really quite impressed with just how delicious. I mean, eggplant and tomatoes and asparagus, and mind you, the lemon cream helped, but just all the different flavors. I was really amazed at how much flavor you can get out of vegetarian food.